The Supreme Court of Nigeria today adjourned hearing in the suit instituted by some state government against the federal government on the new monetary policy to Wednesday, 22nd February 2023. I beg your pardon. The original suit was instituted by Kogi, Kaduna, and Zamfara states governments against the Attorney General of the Federation. Upon the plaintiff's ex parte motion, the Supreme Court gave an interim order restraining the federal government, from maintaining 10th February 2023 as a deadline for the old notes to cease to be illegal tender, which is a 200, 500, and 1,000 note. The affected old Naira notes are to coexist with the new Naira notes. At the hearing of the substantive matter this Wednesday, some states indicated their intention to be joined as plaintiffs in the matter. Those who filed the motion on joinder include Lagos, Ekiti, Ondo, Ogun, Cross River, Sokoto, Katsina, Bayelsa, and Edo states. Edo and Bayelsa joined on the side of the Attorney General of the Federation. Other states include Kano, Rivers, and Nasarawa moved to file a separate suit challenging the amount of money set to be withdrawn by the CBN. But the court enjoined them to consolidate that into the substantive issue to be determined in the main suit. Meanwhile, the 7-member panel of the justices of the Supreme Court, led by Justice John Okoro, held that the plaintiffs have from Wednesday till Friday this week to consolidate their matter and reply on the point of law to preliminary objections filed by the respondents. The respondents have till Monday next week to respond to fresh matters raised by the plaintiffs, while the court advised respondents to ensure that money is made available to Nigerians at banks and other outlets. Does the interim order made still in place? Is it still in place? How autonomous is the CBN? What is the implication of this on our economy? These and more questions will be tackled by our guests in a moment. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I am your carrier, Clinton. Joining me to provide more insight is Abubakar Ahmed Tanimu, a lawyer and a former banker. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight being here.
Also here in the studio is Adewale Oyerinde, Director General, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, also a public affairs analyst. Good to have you with us on Nigeria Today.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.
Now let's begin our conversation. Okay, you had the introduction there. Supreme Court adjourns the suit on Naira swap policy to February 2020, February 22, to allow it consolidate on all cases in the matter emanating from 9 more states of the Federation seeking to be joined in the suit. This paints a picture of 2 elephants fighting and the grass is suffering. Where are we? Tanimu.
At the moment, where we are is glaring. Everybody is feeling the heat. You go to the streets in Abuja, where we are today, most of the banks are not opened. They are locked. People cannot do any of the banking transaction. The apps are having challenges. Just yesterday, the network, particularly one of the major network, was down. So if you are focusing on online e-banking, e-transaction, what happens if the network is not functional or optimal? I think for me, the action taken by those states are they are towing the right line. They are feeling the pulse of the people, because if we want to pretend that we don't know what is happening, when you walk around the street, you see the fear, you see the pain, you see the anger in the minds of the average Nigerian. Now, it's not only about the average Nigerian. Everybody is affected in one way or the other. Before now, on this very station, we've talked about the lack of capacity, the lack of preparedness of this whole policy. Monetary policy globally, you don't just take it without engaging the physical angle of it, because anything you do has a correlating effect on the fiscal policy. I thought before the CBN could implement such a very important policy of this nature, all stakeholders, when I mean all stakeholders, the Minister of Finance, the police, the banks, the bankers committee, even the downtrodden masses that are involved, they should have a representative, so that you hear from them, so that you're able to plan ahead, identify all the risks, mitigate against them. We should not always resort to the judiciary to tell us to do what is right or what is wrong. That is the problem we are having. And before you know it, average Nigerians now will start heaping on blames on the judiciary, particularly the Supreme Court. They will say Supreme Court is giving them governors. Supreme Court now is now designing monetary policy. What the Supreme Court has done is to be on the side of the masses. If we don't have a country today, then we will not even be talking about monetary policy. The dangers that the exalted juries at the Supreme Court have seen, and they've given an order. I'm surprised that the central bank is an entity. It operates under the executive. They form part of the executive. So if an order is given, even though the central bank, me and you as citizens of the country, we are duty bound to obey, to comply with the orders of the Supreme Court. If we have any reservation, the door is wide open by the rules of the court. You can seek to be joined in that suit because it's affecting you. Maybe the compliance to that order will affect you negatively, or you'll be incapacitated in whatever. You are supposed to go to the court, depose to an affidavit, indicate that yes, you have had this order in one way or the other, it's affecting you, but you cannot comply for one or two reasons. But that has not been done, and I'm happy that the council representing the other state government like Kaduna and Kogi have informed the court that the order that has been made has not been complied with. In law, is a very simple position in the legal parlance. If a court gives an order and you fail to comply with such an order, it will be contemptuous for you to now go back to that same court. So I know that the Gusibian governor will still have legal issues in the days to come by, and I will be surprised to see which of the courts he will be approaching, because the precedent is laying is a very dangerous precedent. I encourage the Supreme Court to stick by its order, and there should be consequences for those flaunting the orders.
Thank you, Robert. Adewale, you've heard what Tanimo said there. Yeah. He has, pointed out some issues, like the things still being the way they are, even though there's been an order by the court. Now, what is the implication of this on the socio-economic well-being, looking at the scenario, looking at what is playing out right now?
Thank you once again. I'm not a lawyer, but as lawyer we say that they are learned. But I think I'm educated enough to know that when a court, except you are breeding an anarchical society, a society that is lawless, and a lawless society brings another dynamics to your socio-economic context. Except you are breeding that, then you give due regard to the pronouncements of the court, especially a court like the Supreme Court, which is the final arbiter of justice in this country. Like one of the legal luminaries said this morning, even if you say the Supreme Court doesn't have jurisdiction, but the moment it has assumed jurisdiction, then you just abide by those rules. That is, by the way, looking at the implications, general implications. As I said, Nigeria is a predominantly an informal economy. The informal sector drives predominantly the economy that we run in this country. And in that economy, what thrives is cash transaction. And if you want to say you want to do financial inclusiveness, you want to bring everybody to the banking system, then the first thing you have to do basically is to create structures and infrastructures that will enable them to transact businesses seamlessly. What we have now is an enormous cash squeeze. So the individual that have deposited their cash cannot withdraw their cash. The businesses are not able to sell because people are not able to withdraw their cash to sell. So there is a breakdown in transaction, as it were, business transaction. So the businesses are suffering, the farmers are suffering, those that are selling perishable goods, they are suffering, and now average Nigerians, basically everybody is suffering. And when somebody is suffering, our basic instinct, all of us, is the instinct for survival. So when your capacity or ability to survival is compromised or is taken from you, either willfully or by a system in whatever context, then individuals are bound to react. Not because they want to react, but because they've been compelled to react. So the flash of crisis we found in some parts of the country, it will be a child's play, if this issue is not resolved and resolved quickly. And as people have said, and we've said consistently, this process is not rocket science. Countries in the world have done, they've designed their currency, they've done currency swap. We have Zimbabwe that did it with serious negative consequences. We have the European Union have done currency swap and currency change. Myanmar have done it. So we have enormous lessons to learn from those that did it and failed, and those that did it and succeeded. So we don't have any reason to find ourselves in this quagmire, this economic chaos that we have brought to, as someone said, this systemic economic chaos that we have brought to ourselves. And it's a shame, really, that in the 21st century, in 2023, our monetary policy experts, are still predominantly involved in what people call voodoo economics. Economics that you can't place exactly the beginning and the end of it, and it's becoming a pattern. If you notice, a pattern of the CBN monetary policies. We come up with a good policy, but the implementation is not well thought out. So after taking 1, 2, 3 steps, then you see the CBN reversing itself and coming back to the point where they should have started from. You don't create policy for angels. Whatever fiscal or monetary policies, they are not created for angels. Policies are created to facilitate a system that will enable the citizens to thrive, the economy to thrive. And when that same policy is now squeezing the individuals, is now squeezing the economy, is now squeezing every component of your system that could contribute to your GDP, then there is a cause for serious concern.
Okay. Now, we'll take a break here and take a look at, listen to what Nigerians are saying, as put together by Thomas Ogbetere. Don't go away.
The Apex Court has come up with a decision in the name of ex parte order. So, and that ex parte order said that status quo should be maintained by way of making sure that the old Naira note should not be suspended, should be legal tender. But today, as we speak, people that we elected and gave them legitimacy to lead us in this country democratically, they have not come out to tell us if they are obeying the court order or they are rejecting it. Actually, there is an appeal in that regard, but today that judgment, that order is still standing. It has not been waived as a result of that appeal. So I will urge the federal government to immediately obey and adhere to the instruction and the judgment of the Apex Court.
So these are some of the lapses that my brother Tobisi said. There is hunger in the land. There is hunger in the land. Serious hunger is in the land. Why? Because of this cashless policy. To be sincere, I will tell you the truth. We are not yet mature for cashless. We have not gotten to that stage to begin to work on cashless. First of all, let the network in Nigeria be working perfectly before you can be introducing cashless. As long as there is no network, cashless should be suspended.
You understand? And now it's not, the POS people are not even helping matters. The ATM are not functioning because the money is not in the ATM. You enter the bank, they don't have cash. You understand?
What's the way out?
The only way out is for CBN to print more currency and release it into the economy.
Welcome back. It is still Nigeria Today, and we're discussing the update on new monetary policy. My guests are still with me. Tanimu, you have the reaction of people there. However, but before you react to that, I want to ask, to what extent is the CBN autonomous in making monetary policy?
You see, if you look at the Establishment Act of the CBN, a lot of people tend to misinterpret it to think that the CBN is autonomous and they can do what they like. It's not true. The CBN are under various supervisions. You have the Senate Committee on Financial Institutions and Banking. They regulate the budget activities and so many of what the CBN does. And if you look at in terms of appointment, who appoints the CBN governor is answerable. It's answerable to Nigerians. The CBN is an institution created to regulate the banking industry and financial institution. So to that extent, they owe Nigerians that responsibility that if they are making policy, they should make policy that will make their lives better, not policies. Today we've had, in recent times, the CBN have turned out so many policies, as my co-analyst said, that they end up reversing such policies. And why? What led to that is because they are not prepared for it. Any policy you are implementing that involves the lives of more than 200 million Nigerians, and it's not only about Nigerians. There are other foreigners, there are other people that have been, you have business transactions with. So if you want to make a policy, you must bring all stakeholders on board. As I said earlier, the monetary policy is directly related to the fiscal policy. It's on record. When this whole thing started, the Minister of Finance, Honorable Minister of Finance, said she was not carried along. The police, the bankers, a lot of people are not carried along. So we want to ask, is it that the CBN governor is exercising an autonomy that is not in any way enshrined? Because he shouldn't be acting alone. For me, I expect the president to call him to order. He's saying that he has gone to the president to go and obtain an approval. He doesn't need to do that. But if he's using the president's name to inflict hardship on Nigerians, I think if I'm the president, I will call him to order that the same approval that you have presented to me, either you have misrepresented facts, because you can present a memo with laudable ideas, all the benefits, and you hide the merits of the policy. Now the people are feeling it, the people and everybody is seeing it. So it means fundamentally that more needs to be done, and this is an opportunity for even the CBN Acts to be reviewed. The National Assembly and all Nigerians should really call the CBN to account in terms of the way they administer this monetary policy, and the review should focus on seeing how they can now find a way to know that monetary policy cannot operate independent of the physical consequences. They are interrelated, they are interwoven. One has a direct correlation on the other. In this case, monetary policy has more impact and effect on the generality of Nigeria. So we shouldn't, even the independence that they have at this moment, I think it should be looked into, so that we don't have a governor, a sitting governor that wants to be that powerful. He wants to be president while you are still in office. You are making policies that is impacting negatively on Nigeria, and nobody seems to be calling him to order. The National Assembly, they are on break. They have not said anything tangible on this matter. The presidency is keeping mum. We have not really seen anything in that regard. So more needs to be done in terms of ensuring accountability.
Yeah, now, Adewale, I know you have quite a lot to say there, but then the CBN governor had come out to say there are some members of the public that are hoarding this cash, they're buying up this cash and hoarding, waiting for the election. I know somebody there mentioned, there's a hunger in the land. So how would you, what's your take on this?
Well, there are, for every system there are boundaries. I'm not really sure that among the functions of the CBN, part of it is to curb vote buying.
It's not.
It's to deal with monetary policies that will aid economic growth. I'm not also sure that part of the function of the CBN, a couple of them, even some of the interventions that should have been done by the commercial banks. The CBN takes up those responsibilities, and there's this conspiracy of silence from everybody. So for us, is the CBN cannot play the ostrich, cannot claim it's not complicit. If you open your door for armed robbers to come in, they can't come in and say you are not at fault, because you created the environment for crime to happen. We know a couple of persons, institutions, without mentioning names, are sabotaging the process, rightly so. But the CBN created the environment for it to happen. You might point your finger at the POS operator, that also had to buy the naira and realize he also had to make a gain in order to bridge the gap from its own investments, if I'll call it that. So the CBN cannot say they are not complicit. If the right thing has been done, if they hadn't put the cart before the horse, you do your analysis, what are the risks inherent in the monetary policy that we are coming up with, what are the security risks inherent in it, what are the social issues that might arise from it. Doing those analysis, just like a project, you are working on a project management, you are coming up with this, then you have dealt with all the issues, all the risks, and you have significantly created structures to mitigate whatever risks that will come. In this instance, it seems strongly so that the CBN has not, they haven't done that. And the governor came up to say they didn't anticipate the kind of resistance. Come on, why will you say such things? You've not anticipated the kind of challenge or resistance that you are facing. If you are doing public enlightenment, you don't go on TV and do public enlightenment. You don't go to the papers, buy newspaper. You don't go and take a full-page advert in the papers and say you are doing enlightenment. How many Nigerians probably have electricity to watch your campaign on TV? How many have the money to buy newspaper to see your campaign in newspaper? The governor said the senior officers of the bank, they've gone around Nigerians. How many senior officers does the bank have as a whole for them to have transversed the nook and cranny of this country to do that kind of enlightenment that is needed to drive this policy? So inherently, I perceive strongly that the CBN created a system that will fail, and it is failing, and for what we have seen, it has failed. So the right thing should be done. They should. One of my bosses used to say, it is better to be inconsistent than to persist in error. If you realize that the resistance that we have seen now to this policy is building, and we are just starting. People have taken the resistance to the court. It would be unfortunate if the government did not take the bull by the horn and deal with this issue and deal with it now. The resistance in the court is civil. The resistance outside the court might be what the security agencies will find difficult to contain.
Now, I know he's mentioned quite a lot there about the weak implementation, from what I gathered from what he said. However, there were goals in view before this redesign, and of course the cash limit, the entire cashless policy, idea. Now, we're talking about fighting counterfeiting, fighting kidnapping, insecurity, there's ransom paying, the money, trying to, taking the excess money in circulation. How far or will you say we have gone? Because we have, the CBN has recorded some successes. The money in circulation that were outside the bank were 2.7 trillion, but now the CBN, the banks were able to get 1.9 trillion, which of course is more than the 50%. So with this, will you say the policy, just like you said, has failed? It has failed.
In fact, the level of the failure is that of what is the essence. I think the CBN, as he rightly pointed out, CBN is meant to be a regulator, but now they've jumped into the ring as they are playing the role of commercial banks. You have CBN disbursing loans in billions, deviating from the core function of which they are set up. Is the CBN set up to fight kidnapping? Don't we have the various security outfits? Why are they paying them salaries? We have the military, we have the police, we have the DSS. If they want to switch role, then they should state it that the CBN governor wants to be in charge of security. And mind you, even the kidnappers, they started displaying the new notes that me and you don't have. So the question is, have they succeeded? If you mop up cash in circulation, of what benefit is the open market operation is to the average Nigerian? Go to the market. People cannot transact. People are dying in hospitals because they cannot even pay for the medical things that they require. So it's a failed policy. We should just revert back to the status quo and see how we can salvage.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And that's it. On Nigeria Today, we pray for speedy rescue of we pray, for things to become normal. so that every Nigeria will smile again. We must thank our guests for their insight. Abubakar Ahmed Tanimu, a lawyer and former banker. Thank you very much for coming. And also Adewale Oyerinde, Director General, Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, also a public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for your contributions. And to our viewer, a very big thank you for always being there. Don't forget Nigeria Today airs weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can watch this and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for watching. I'm your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.